Have you ever met someone who seemed off? Not just rude or self-centered, but chillingly calm, manipulative, and oddly charming, like they were playing a game and you were the prize? What if I told you that person might be a psychopath? Before you say, "I'd know if I met one," listen closely. Because psychopaths don't come with warning labels, they come with charm, calculated kindness, and sometimes love. And if you're not paying attention, they'll slip into your life like a thief in the night and steal more than just your peace of mind. So stick around, because in this video we'll dive deep into the 5 signs you're dealing with a psychopath. And we're not just looking at pop psychology, we're breaking this down through the lens of Stoic philosophy, especially drawing from the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who taught us how to recognize inner chaos hiding behind a mask of order. Before we go further, take a second to subscribe to Stoic Sage, and like this video if you're serious about protecting your heart and your mind, and make sure to watch until the end. Because one of these signs, just one, might save you from a lifetime of emotional torment. Let's build some context first. The Stoics were warriors not just in battle but in life. They believed in the power of reason, the mastery of emotions, and the ability to remain unshaken in the face of chaos. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, lived in a world full of betrayal, manipulation, and illusion. Sound familiar? The Stoics didn't have modern psychology, but they did have clarity. They understood that evil often hides behind beauty, that danger sometimes comes with a smile, and that the greatest enemy you might ever face is not the sword, but the soul wrapped in a mask of civility. So how do you spot a psychopath, Stoic style? 1. They mimic emotions but feel nothing inside. Do you remember your first love? Not the fling, not the crush, but that person who felt like home. The one who looked at you like you were the only soul on earth worth seeing. The one whose laugh echoed in your heart long after they left the room. Hold that feeling for a second. Now, imagine meeting someone who makes you feel exactly like that. They say the right words. They finish your sentences. They remember your favorite song, bring you coffee just the way you like it, text you good morning before you even open your eyes. You think this can't be real, but it is, or so you think. Because deep down you feel something's off, something cold behind the warmth, something empty behind the affection, like they're acting, not feeling. And here's the truth that's hard to swallow. You might be dealing with a psychopath. They don't love you, they study you. They mimic love because they've learned what it looks like. They've read the script. They know the moves, but they don't feel it. Not the joy, not the pain, not the vulnerability. When you laugh, they laugh, but there's no real warmth behind it. When you cry, they console you, but their eyes don't soften. They're like a mirror reflecting back what you give them. You say, "I feel so safe with you." They smile and whisper, "I feel the same." But they don't, not really. See, real love is messy. It's raw. It stumbles. It exposes. But what they offer, it's polished, perfect, too perfect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But psychopaths have no color. They dye themselves with your emotions. They feed on them. Use them, mirror them. Have you ever felt like you were in love but somehow still alone? Like they were always just slightly out of reach emotionally? You tried to connect. You opened up. You gave them your fears, your stories, your scars. And they listened intently, even kindly. But you noticed something. A delay in their reactions. A pause before empathy. A mechanical rhythm to their affection. That's not love. That's mimicry. And here's the dangerous part. The better they are at pretending, the deeper you fall. Until one day they take off the mask. And it's like staring into nothingness. You wonder, was any of it real? The Stoics would tell you to observe without illusion. Look not at what someone says, but who they consistently are. Because a person who can mirror love without feeling it isn't your soulmate. They're your shadow. So tell me, have you ever felt this? Have you ever loved someone who made you feel like the main character, only to realize they were just reading lines? If so, this story isn't just a warning. It's your story, and it's time to write the ending differently. First they charm, then control. Have you ever fallen in love so fast it felt like a movie? Like one day you were just living, existing, and the next, someone stepped into your world and made everything brighter. They knew how to look at you, how to say your name like it mattered, how to make you feel seen in ways no one else ever had. Remember the first time they made your heart race? The first time their message made you smile at your phone like a fool? The first night you stayed up just talking, telling secrets you didn't even know you had, it felt magical, didn't it? That's how it begins, with charm. They make you feel like the most important person in the universe, like you're finally enough, like they've waited their whole life to find you. But then the magic changes, slowly, almost invisibly. The compliments turn into questions. Why do you still talk to your ex? Do you have to go out tonight? Why didn't you tell me about that guy who liked your post? At first it feels like care. It feels like they're just passionate, protective. But deep inside, a seed of doubt begins to grow. And you ignore it, because they love you, right? But that's the trick. They charm you so they can control you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." But psychopaths hate calm minds because calm minds can think. Calm minds can see through lies. Calm minds ask questions. So instead, they create chaos. Little storms. They love bomb you one moment, then withdraw the next. They praise you, then criticize you. One day they say you're perfect. The next they say you're the reason everything feels wrong. And here's the worst part. You begin to believe them. You start to second guess yourself. You apologize for things you didn't do. You shrink a little bit each day, trying to avoid the next explosion, the next guilt trip, the next "I was just joking." But you weren't laughing, were you? Control disguised as passion is still control, and love that hurts your soul isn't love, it's a cage. The Stoics would tell you peace is your birthright. If someone constantly stirs your heart into chaos, it's not passion, it's poison. So tell me honestly, have you ever felt this before? Have you ever loved someone who made you feel like a queen, one day and a stranger the next? That's not your fault. That's not your weakness. It's their game. And now you're waking up to it. So stay with me, because in the next sign, we'll expose the tactic that psychopaths use to make you feel guilty for their betrayal. This story isn't over yet. 3, they never take responsibility.
Have you ever been in love with someone
Who could do no wrong, at least in their own eyes? Think back. Was there a time when you were always the one apologizing? When no matter what went wrong, somehow, it was your fault? Maybe it started small. A missed text, a forgotten date, a broken promise. You brought it up gently, hoping to be heard, to be understood. But instead of an apology, you got a storm. You're too sensitive. Why are you always overreacting? This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't pushed me. And suddenly, you were the problem. You started to doubt your memory, your instincts, even your sanity. You wondered, was I really being too emotional? Did I read too much into it? Maybe I did provoke them, and that's exactly what they wanted. Psychopaths, those cold, calculating souls, never take responsibility for their actions. They rewrite reality until you become the villain, and they become the misunderstood hero. They'll lie to your face and make you apologize for catching them. They'll cheat and say you were distant. They'll insult you and say, you made me angry. They'll hurt you and say, it's just how you took it. And the scary part is, they're so convincing you start to believe it. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, warned us, if someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. That's what real strength looks like. But a psychopath? They fear that kind of humility, because taking responsibility means losing control, and control is their obsession, so they project, they twist, they turn everything back onto you until you're walking on eggshells, desperate not to trigger another explosion, another guilt trip, another night of silent treatment. Let me ask you, have you ever been in that kind of love? A love where you couldn't speak freely? Where your pain became a debate? Where their mistakes turned into your shame? If so, I want you to know something very important. That wasn't love. That was psychological warfare dressed in affection. The Stoics believed in truth, in owning our flaws, in seeking clarity. And someone who truly loves you will say, I was wrong. They'll say, I'm sorry. They'll say, let me make it right. But a psychopath, they'll never give you that peace. Because if they admit fault, they lose power. So next time someone shifts the blame for their betrayal onto your back, ask yourself, is this my story? Or their illusion? You deserve someone who takes ownership, not someone who takes your sanity. Stick with me, because the next sign will reveal how they don't just twist your mind. They isolate your world, and once you see it, you'll never unsee it again. 4, they isolate you from the people who love you. Who's the first person you call when your heart is heavy? Your best friend from college? Your sibling? Maybe your mom, that one person who knows your awkward stories, your childhood scars, your little quirks, the one who reminds you who you are when the world makes you forget. Now imagine this. You fall in love hard. This new person sweeps into your life like a storm of fire and passion. Everything else starts to blur because they give you something you've been craving: attention, affection, connection. You think, finally, someone gets me. At first, they encourage your friendships, but soon, they start planting little seeds. Your best friend is kind of jealous, don't you think? Your sister doesn't really support us. She never liked me. I just feel like your family doesn't want you to be happy. It's subtle, wrapped in concern, but it gets under your skin. Before you know it, you're pulling away from people, skipping calls, avoiding hangouts, keeping things to yourself, not because you want to, but because you don't want drama. They tell you it's us against the world, and you believe it. But slowly your world gets smaller. Psychopaths are masters of isolation, not with chains, but with manipulation. Because once you're alone, you're easier to control. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. But when the only voice you hear is theirs, when the only opinions you're allowed to trust are theirs, when the only truth you know is the one they feed you, your thoughts are no longer your own. They don't just want your love, they want your loyalty, your silence, your submission, so they sever the lifelines, one by one. And the heartbreaking part? You don't even notice it's happening until it's too late. You wake up one day and realize you feel more alone in this relationship than you ever felt when you were single. And the people who once protected you, you've pushed them away, not because you stopped loving them, but because you were convinced they were the problem. Let me ask you, has that ever happened to you? Have you ever looked back at a time in your life and realized I disappeared in that relationship? Not just from others, but from yourself. Psychopaths isolate you to disarm you, to weaken your sense of self, to keep you from hearing the truth, because deep down, they know that if you ever heard the truth spoken clearly, you'd leave. But you're not lost. You're waking up. And waking up is the first step back to yourself. They discard you without emotion, like you never mattered. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that they became your entire world, only for them to walk away one day like you never existed? No goodbye, no tears, just silence, as if all those memories, laughs, late-night talks meant nothing. If you felt that before, I want you to sit with me a moment. Because what you experienced wasn't just a breakup. It was a discard, and it cuts deeper than you think. At the beginning, they made you feel chosen. They watched you like you were art. They said things like, "I've never felt this way about anyone before." They mirrored your dreams, your fears, your desires, until it felt like fate. You told them your secrets. You let them in. You built your future around them. But here's the dark truth. Psychopaths don't build, they consume. And once they've drained what they want from you, your love, your time, your soul, they move on. Coldly, quietly, cruelly. You're left there staring at the last message, rereading old texts, wondering what you did wrong. But the answer? Nothing. You were real. They were not. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But psychopaths, they do what benefits them. They say what gets them ahead. Love to them is just a transaction. And once you no longer serve their purpose, once you start asking questions, or showing strength, or standing up for yourself, they vanish. Without guilt, without closure. You may even see them flaunting a new love days later, publicly, proudly, while you're still curled up wondering how your forever became a footnote. But let me ask you, have you ever been left like that? Have you ever felt like someone pressed delete on everything you built together? Like you were rewritten in their story as just someone they used to know? If you have, please understand something powerful. You were never the problem. You were never disposable. They just didn't have the capacity to feel. What they offered was performance, not partnership. Manipulation, not meaning. You gave them real love and they threw it away, not because it wasn't valuable, but because they didn't know what to do with something authentic. And while they move on like nothing happened, you heal. You grow. You become wiser. Because the discard, it's not your ending. It's your beginning. So please don't chase them. Don't beg for closure. The way they left is your closure. Let them go. Because one day someone will look at you and see what they never could. Not just your beauty, but your soul. So let's recap the 5 Stoic-backed signs. You might be dealing with a psychopath. 1. They mimic emotion but feel none. 2. They charm you, then control you. 3. They never take responsibility ever. 4. They isolate you from everyone. 5. They enjoy your pain and hide it well. Now I want you to reflect deeply, not just with fear but with clarity. Is there someone in your life who fits this description? And more importantly, are you ready to reclaim your peace? Stoicism doesn't promise a life free from pain, but it does promise something better. Freedom from emotional slavery. Freedom from manipulation. Freedom to say, I deserve better, and actually believe it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but the battle he fought most was within himself. You might not be an emperor, but you are the ruler of your own mind. And no psychopath, no matter how charming or clever, deserves the throne. So take it back. And with that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.